Hi. First of all, I would like to say that I'm very happy to be here with you and to be part of this conference and have the opportunity to talk about the subject that I worked on very earlier in my life, I may say. It was my master thesis. It was the subject of my master thesis, but recently I'm reworking on this topic. So that had been a good opportunity for me to revise all these issues. So I find this topic very interesting. I hope that you will find it as well. I will talk about the Communist Group of Istanbul in Istanbul during the occupation years. So the group will later become part of the Communist Party of Turkey that was founded in 1920. In fact, the group makes part of the foundation period of the party since three groups emerged almost simultaneously at three distinct places during the summer of 1920. Maybe some of you know already these. So one group was in Istanbul, one group is in Ankara, and the other one is in Baku. The Communist Group of Istanbul was a clandestine organization and was founded around May 1920, in the summer of 1920, right after the occupation of Istanbul by the Allied forces in March. It was headed by Şefik Hüsnü, maybe, yes, I was doing on my computer. So it was headed by Şefik Hüsnü, you may see him on the picture, who will also become a prominent figure in the Communist Party of Turkey in later years. He will die until his death in 1959. This other picture, the document that I would like to share with you, is a letter that he wrote to Comintern in 1920. So this research is based mostly on these documents, the letters that was sent by Şefik Hüsnü as the head of the Communist Group of Istanbul to Comintern between 1920 and 1922. So my research goes on to 1920s, late 1920s, 1930s as well, but I will only share this small period with you. So these documents I found, so these are normally the Legaspi documents, the Comintern, Communist International documents that are originated in Moscow. But TÜSTAV, maybe you are familiar with this organization. I don't know the long version of it. But think about it. Erol Ülker was here, so he is the actual president of the organization. I would like to pay my tribute to the organization as well, this foundation, because Aydınlık, the previous president, he brought all the relevant data from this Moscow archives in Istanbul, the data relevant to the history of the Communist Party of Turkey. So I found all the documents in these. I didn't go to Moscow, but I worked on TÜSTAV archive to find all these documents. To speak about the other branches of the communists in Turkey, almost at the same time, another clandestine communist organization was found in Ankara, which called themselves the Communist Party of Turkey. The communists in Ankara, together with a revolutionary nationalist group, that is also called the populist group, Halk Zümresi, we call it in Turkish, found a legal communist party in Ankara named People's Communist Party of Turkey, Türkiye Halk İştirakiyun Fırkası. Another communist organization emerged again at the same time, at the same period, at Baku, the Communist Party of Turkey, headed by Mustafa Supi. The first congress organized by this group in Baku is considered as the foundation congress of the Communist Party of Turkey. Two people from the Communist Group of Istanbul participated in this foundation congress almost accidentally. These people were Ethem Necat and Hilmioğlu Hakkı. So how this accident happened? At the summer of 1920, Istanbul Group received an invitation from the South Bureau of the Communist International to participate in the second Congress of Comintern that will take place at the end of July in Moscow. Ethem Necat and Hilmioğlu Hakkı left Istanbul to participate in the Congress. However, they realized that they would not be able to reach Moscow in time for the Congress, and they stayed in Baku, where they joined the first Congress of Eastern Peoples, organized right after the second Congress of Comintern, in the first days of September. After this, on September 10th, 1920, They were always in Baku, and Turkish communists realized the first Congress of the Communist Party of Turkey, in which the two delegates of the Communist Group of Istanbul, there are too many communists as you see, participated as well. And in this Congress, Ethem Nejat was elected General Secretary of the party. However, these two members of the Communist Group of Istanbul will not be able to come back. Together with the other members of the Central Committee, newly elected in September 1920, they will be murdered at the Black Sea shores at Trabzon on their way back home in January 1921, only 5 months after the foundation of the Communist Party. So, another note, I would like to mention that the Communist Group of Istanbul also sent a delegate to the Historical Congress of the Socialist Party of France at Tours in December 1920, and this was Şefik Hüsnü himself who went there. So how this group was constituted, the Communist Group of Istanbul, most of the members of the group first published a Marxist review, and this is maybe the first Marxist review of the Ottoman Empire, titled Kurtuluş, Liberation, it means liberation, in 1919, first in Berlin and then in Istanbul. By the way, this is also a document that Şefik Hüsnü wrote, and he signed the document as the head of the Communist Group of Istanbul. So Kurtuluş was published, all the issues of Kurtuluş, there are only six issues. It was published by Tüstau again. This is a transcription of the Ottoman version. So on the left-hand side, you may see the Ottoman, the original issue. So these people in Berlin were the students and workers who had gone there during the war. This group also founded a party named Workers and Peasants Socialist Party of Turkey, Türkiye İşçi ve Çiftçi Sosyalist Fırkası in 1919. Şefik Hüsnü and Sadrettin Celal is another Marxist intellectual at that period, joined the Kurtuluş group in Istanbul. The president of the Socialist Party was first Vehbi Bey, but after the occupation of Istanbul, Vehbi Bey went to Anatolia to join the national struggle, and the young painter Namık İsmail became the succeeding president, and Şefik Hüsnü served as the general secretary of the party. The Workers' Peasants Socialist Party of Turkey participated in the parliamentary elections in Istanbul in December 1919 with 3 delegates. This is the last parliamentary elections, Ottoman elections before the occupation. The Allied occupation forces after March 1920 dealt a blow to the activities of the socialist group. The publication of Kurtuluş was interrupted, and the last issue was published in February 1920. These are the other issues of the review. So the first one, Kurtuluş, was published at Berlin in 1919 before the arrival of this group. On the left-hand side, you may see Sadrettin Celal, and on the right, it is Ethem Nejat, who died at this massacre at Trabzon. The group, this broader group, was weakened by the departure of some of its members to Ankara to physically join the Liberation War. And the activities of the group restarted in 1921 with the publication of a new monthly review that was called Aydınlık, Clarity. I may translate it as Clarity in English. So these are the issues of Aydınlık. And meanwhile, as I mentioned in the beginning, in the summer of 1920, Şefik Hüsnü and Sadrettin Celal organized a smaller clandestine group under the name of Communist Group of Istanbul and established contact with the Communist International. We do not know exactly the number of the members of this group. We do not know which people from Kurtuluş Circle and the Workers and Peasants Socialist Party participated in this clandestine group. Similarly, we do not know exactly which one of the Aydınlık writers adhered to this clandestine group. What we do know is that the Workers' Peasants Socialist Party of Turkey and Review Aydınlık gathered a more heterogeneous group of socialists, Marxist intellectuals, whereas the Communist Group of Istanbul was composed of a smaller and more committed communist intellectuals, within this larger community. In the establishment of this communist group and in the publication of the review Aydınlık, Şefik Hüsnü was inspired by a group of French intellectual communists organized in a very similar way around a review called Clarté, headed by Henri Barbus. As you see, Clarté and Aydınlık are exactly the same thing. The movement Clarté was constituted in 1919 by French intellectuals Raymond Lefebvre and Henri Barbus as an anti-war initiative. The famous French writer Anatole France also adhered in this movement. Barbus maintained the idea that the movement should constitute a wider platform for a wide range of left-wing intellectuals, arguing that intellectuals will play a privileged role in the way towards socialism. Following the foundation of the French Communist Party, after the session at the Congress of Tours, a smaller number of communist intellectuals inside the movement started to publish Clarté as a review of the international revolution, followed by Yann Couturier, Jean Bernier, Marcel Fourier, Magdeleine Marx were among the members of the smaller number of communist intellectuals. Magdeleine Marx, we will see her, also in the pages of Aydınlık. The first 6 issues of Aydınlık were published between June and December 1921, when the review interrupted its publication for 6 months, and then the review interrupted its publication for 6 months. It restarted to get published in July 1922, just one month before the victory of the War of National Liberation. Sorry, I'm also lost in all these dates, since this is a very small period, so I want to mention the exact dates as well. So the review in the first 6 months of its publication addressed mostly intellectuals and elaborated mainly the theoretical questions of Marxism and socialism. The purpose of the review was spreading socialist ideas, introducing and discussing Marxism in the Turkish context. And the review paid special attention to the emancipation of women in Turkey, including many women writers and poets among its writers. Is this coming? Okay. In Aydınlık, Şefik Hüsnü made a detailed analysis of the class structure of Turkey and the Ottoman Empire, of course, trying to prove that the modern classes such as the bourgeoisie and the proletariat existed in Turkey as well. He discussed the necessity and form of the revolution in Turkey in theoretical terms. So this review was basically a theoretical review. How was the relations of this communist group of Istanbul with the nationalist leadership of the War of National Liberation in Ankara? I already mentioned that some members of the broader socialist group left Istanbul to join the movement in Ankara. I believe this incited an internal discussion on the role of the communists in this national liberation movement and on the character of the leadership of this nationalist movement in terms of ideological orientations. The Communist Group of Istanbul chose deliberately Istanbul as the center of its activities. This was still the intellectual center of the Ottoman Empire and where the workers and workers' movement were concentrated. On the other hand, Şefik Hüsnü was reluctant to cooperate with the nationalist leadership in Ankara. He insisted that the nationalist movement in Anatolia was a bourgeois movement and that the communists should not rely on. For him, the proof was the assassination of the members of the Communist Party of Turkey in January 1921. In May 1921, Şefik Hüsnü wrote to Comintern his opinion on this issue, and I will quote this. The Communist Group of Istanbul considers it is of primary importance for Oriental communism to be accurately fixed on the aims of the nationalist movement of Asia Minor and on the mentality of its leaders, because of the incalculable consequences it implies and of its repercussions on the workers' and peasants' life. After a painful experience of 18 months, it must not exist in Turkey, as well as in Russia and even in other countries of the continent, any communist still keeping any doubt on the repugnance and antipathy of the nationalist leaders for the proletarian dictatorship and the Soviet Republic. At any moment, you can come across one of these revolutionary nationalists who talks something like this. Soviet Russia, but we serve of it like a scarecrow against British imperialism. The day we will obtain of this letter the recognition of our right of a minimum existence, we will not be late a moment to kick it as its nice place at your sacred federative of Republic of Soviet. Thus, the first article written by Şefik Hüsnü, directly referring to the national liberation movement in Anatolia and its leadership, was on the victory of the Liberation War in the September issue of Aydınlık. Until that moment, we do not see any reference to the War of Nation Liberation on the pages of Aydınlık. Of course, the main reason was that the review was published under Allied occupation. However, even in this first article, we see the doubts of Şefik Hüsnü towards this leadership of the national struggle, especially on the issue of the rise of the workers and peasant class. And now I want to mention, lastly, the relations of the Communist Group of Istanbul with the workers. To establish contact with the workers in Istanbul and organize them was an essential part of the activities of both the Workers' Peasant Socialist Party of Turkey and the Communist Group of Istanbul. Before the parliamentary elections in 1919, this party, together with the Workers' Association of Turkey, organized a meeting in the Ferhat Theater at Şehzadebaşı, where 2,000 workers participated according to an estimation. The daily journal of the period, İkdam, gave the news of this meeting under the headline, "The Workers' Movement Begins in Istanbul." At that period, there was a small but active working class in Istanbul. 19 strikes took place in the period during the occupation years, between 1919 and 1922, and almost all these strikes took place in Istanbul. It was reported that thousands of workers participated in a demonstration to protest the occupation of Izmir in Sultanahmet in 30 May 1919. It was screened yesterday by one of the speakers, this demonstration. May 1st manifestations were organized under the occupation in Istanbul, first in 1921 and also in 1922. Of course, there were other socialist organizations and communist groups in Istanbul at the same period. Very briefly, I will mention these before concluding. The Communist Group of Istanbul was in close relation with the International Workers' Union, Beynelmilel İşçiler İttihadı. This was a trade union formed in the spring of 1920 and comprehended mostly Greek workers. Another workers' organization in Istanbul under occupation was the Socialist Party of Turkey, Türkiye Sosyalist Partisi. This party, headed by a controversial figure, Hüseyin Hilmi, also called İştirakçı Hilmi, and it was the continuation of the Ottoman Socialist Party, founded by the same person in 1910. The Socialist Party of Turkey succeeded at organizing many workers inside the party and organized important and successful strikes during the occupation. This success was rather due to the financial aid Hilmi could provide. In this period, Hilmi acquired a large amount of money from an unknown source and used this money to materially support the workers during the strikes. In this way, these strikes ended up attaining most of their goals. So I want to open a parenthesis here and say off the record that this source is believed to be the British forces of occupation to support the strikes of the French companies. So since there were rival companies, but of course there is no evidence about this, concrete evidence. It was estimated that the Socialist Party of Turkey had 17,000 members. The International Union of Workers, which was a federation that covered 3 worker unions, had approximately 3,700 members, and the Association of Tobacco Monopoly Workers had 1,500 members. I will just mention the names of other worker organizations, such as the Independent Socialist Party, Müstakil Sosyalist Fırkası, the Labour Party, Amele Fırkası, and the Independent Labour Party, Müstakil Amele Fırkası. Even the Unionists found a pseudo-socialist organization under the name of Osmanlı Mesai Fırkası. Ottoman Work Party. As a conclusion, I may say that, let's see, so before the conclusion, I want to show you the issues of Aydınlık and draw your attention to the similarity with Clarté. So this is Clarté, even the picture that they used were the same. And also, you may see Anatole France, for example, at the page of Clarté together with Marx. As a conclusion, I may say that there were many resistance movements in Turkey and specifically in Istanbul under occupation. The communists consist of a particular case among these movements. They had an overreaching ideal, continue the world revolution started by the Bolsheviks in Russia. However, they worked for organizing a communist party under the hard conditions of occupation and where the intellectuals were not familiar with Marxism and where the working class was not massive. Still, they were part of a broader movement in which they established closer contacts with the European communist intellectuals and the Communist International in Moscow. Thank you for listening.